So, we've not seen this in a long time, and I don't mean him.
Rude.
I mean this, but wow. You've done a lot, haven't you?
Well, here we are, Mark. It's mid-February. I've survived another winter, to my own shock. I haven't done a lot with a boat. I did a little bit. I don't know when you last saw it last, but I think that it was fairly similar to this, but what I've done is a lot of finishing. There's been a lot of painting going on. Well, not a lot, but a fair bit. I've done a primer on the outside, which is where you see that red colour. It's just a red oxide primer that I've used.
Yeah.
So it's close to the final colour. The final colour is like a crimson red, or signal red maybe. And I've done a coat of varnish on the inside, but there's been hours and hours of fiddling and faffing. I've made a set of seats. And as I said before, Mark, there's not a straight line on this boat. So all these little bits of bosses and so had to be hand cut and chased down and pared down in the seat here, which slots in there. It will get screwed in, but it won't get glued in. And it's going to have some webbing woven over this. I'm going to do it in nice bright red webbing, actually, not black, because it'll match the red on the outside. It's like a woven seat out of 50mm polypropylene webbing. And then, what else have we done? Oh yeah, this has taken me, it's like, I don't know, hours and hours. Sanding in each of these here. I've had to use a bit of emery cloth, sanding through the grades, and then I've done all of them, every one of them. Get them finished off now. So the next step, Mark, is more varnish. So I'm going to give it a couple more coats of Danish oil, and then I'm going to move on to yacht varnish. And I'm just going to get brushing all these and paint them all. I've made it too complex, Mark, haven't I?
Yeah, but
I've gone over the top with it, haven't I?
It looks good.
Yeah, it's getting there, isn't it? Oh yeah, another little feature, Mark. Just on the little bow and stern, there's going to be a little block that sits on there, which is to
Look
put
at
the
the
painter in to pull the thing round. And that'll get glued in, and there's a little plate that'll get glued underneath. That's going to go in the inside there to give it a bit of reinforcement. So it's when you wouldn't lift the boat with it, but you can drag it around the water with it.
But look at this, the finish is beautiful.
It's getting there, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the varnish will help. I know it's a real pain. I could get away with a couple of coats of varnish, but I want to do a real gloss finish and make the most of this lovely wood on the inside here.
Did we see that last time? That wasn't fixed last time.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah. I think it's just a bit of a clean-up and a bit of a tidy, which makes it look better.
Yeah.
But the outside has been sanded and filled, and what they use fairing, they call it in boat terms, which is just that resin that we've been using, the resin, the two-part resin, which you add a chalk, like a talc, to, and then it makes a very thin filler, which you scrape on and sand back off again. So, you know, it's just been sanding, Mark.
Well, that's it, is it?
Do you know, I've sanded so much that my fingerprint doesn't work on the fingerprint recognition.
Are you seriously?
When I have to go for my dinner in the school dining hall, we'd use fingerprint recognition, because I've been holding so much sandpaper, I sanded my fingerprints off. I can't have any food. I have to manually enter my name.
You don't look bad for it.
Cheers.
This is the other one. So what's the pegs on the? Are these just the dowels?
That, Mark, is when I fixed this seat boss on the other side, it had a hole through here which I used to screw to clamp it in. So that's just been filled with a peg, and that'll get cut and flushed off because there was a hole in there that went right through, and I used a little block of wood to spread the stress and screwed in there to pull the block that way.
So these are not screwed in there, they are
No,
just
these the bosses on the side are just bonded in. I could have left the screws in, but I decided not to. But I've used the that foaming, expanding super glue stuff that we use for woodwork. It's fully waterproof, it's weatherproof, it's bomb-proof. I could have done it with epoxy, but I got a bit lazy here and there, really. I've started using that Gorilla Glue, the foaming stuff, and I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I didn't use that for anything structural, but the seat bosses I think will be fine. I'm not worried about them coming off. They're glued solid.
Okay, nice. So when are we on the water?
Easter, Mark, or before.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, brilliant.
Looking forward to it, Mark.
Absolutely.
Can you swim?
Nope. Yeah, I can. Yeah, no problems. I like the way you finished. I didn't see that before. You were putting them on, which we haven't finished. Maybe look at the other end. These are the. Oh, come on, what am I calling them?
This bit here.
Yeah. What are they called?
This is the Skeg. Skeg, which is like a little keel that runs on the boat. And that's where it's good on flat water, Mark. It wouldn't work on moving water, in water that's swirling around.
Right.
But on a lake or a river like the River Severn is round here, it'll track in a nice straight line. It's a little feature from a rowing boats often have those on the bottom, so that when you're rowing they stay in a straight line, which is all I intend to do anyway. I made it a bit bigger so we can have a little overnighter trip, Mark, or something like that.
Yeah.
River Severn or a lake somewhere.
I've got my barrel.
What do you want the barrel for?
Waterproof barrel.
Oh yeah, put stuff in, Mark. Put it in full of beer.
No, well, and that as well, and wine.
Wine? Yeah.
We don't want to get too inebriated.
It'll just be full of beer, Mark.
Which is your seat? Which is the front? Which is the back?
You're leaning on the bow now, Mark. That's the front.
That's the bow, and
Which
that's
is
the
why the seats
stern.
are positioned that way. So
Yeah.
that, although the seats aren't sort of evenly spaced at quarters or whatever distance that you might think they are, it's to do with where the mass of somebody is, because all their backsides perched on it, their legs and body are leaning forward of that, of course.
Because a lot of people, they tend to sit on their canoes and they put their feet underneath the seat.
That's right. Well, I've put these seats at a height where I did try it. I can get my feet underneath that.
Oh, okay.
And that's another reason why I didn't glue the seats in, because if I'm not happy with it, Mark, I could just make a copy of these or adapt this to put it higher or lower.
Yeah.
I did that because some canoes have little hangers off these bits here, which you can adjust.
Yeah,
But I thought if I
mine.
don't screw them in, I can make them and adjust them. I can fiddle with it and make one that works. Or I might even that's a weld a little seat up, like aluminium or something like
Yeah.
that.
When's your finished paint job?
I don't know, Mark. Varnish will be the next. Varnish is far more than the outside, because there's so many layers to get a nice gloss finish.
Yeah.
So I reckon I've got to put about 2 more coats of Danish oil on, which is this stuff here. She's got a varnish in it, but it's also like boiled oil, so they evaporate, and that'll soak a bit better, maybe. I don't know. I'm talking rubbish here. And then I've got myself a good quality varnish. Where did I put that, Mark? I think it's in this box here. Which I will use for the top couple of coats, UV proof and all the rest of it.
Oh, back
Like a good quality yacht varnish, and that I think I've shown you before. That's the top lac paint, which goes on. Expensive stuff, isn't it? Paint, Mark.
Yeah.
I think that was 35, and that was still 12 quid.
Some of this top black stuff you have to have a hardener. Has that got a hardener?
No,
with it?
that's not 2-part. That's just 1 coat.
Okay.
And that'll go on here, but I can get that on the outside here quite quick. I'll roll that on in a couple of coats.
Yeah.
Because there's not much fine detail on the outside, but all this needs to be worked with varnish into it.
That's going to have to be just varnish, because that's lovely, isn't it?
This is beautiful. We all want to take that now. And that's what I said right at the very start, wasn't it? I wanted to have the inside show this lovely veneer that's on here, and any timber and detailing that I put on it.
Brilliant. All right then. Looking forward to the paint
Next
job,
stage
and then
will just
next
be me
minute.
bent over with a varnish brush.
Yeah. Down the river we go. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Take it out.